Hello and welcome to the aForm show. My name is Alan George and thank you very much for tuning in. Each week, we sit across from thought leaders and change makers in the architecture and design space of the GCC. We dive deep into their experiences, both professionally and personally, and share their valuable insight as to what makes them tick. Our goal is to add value to your day and help you navigate your own personal creative journey. Finally, the opinions and the views of the guest speakers are that of their own. They do not necessarily represent the views and the opinions of the show or the host. Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are joined by Ammar Al Assam from Dewan Consultants. Both Ammar and Dewan are two individuals and companies that need no introduction. If you have been in this design ecosystem, you've definitely heard of both them already. So I'm going to let Ammar take over as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining the show, Ammar.
Thank you, Alan. And thank you, the aForm show, for giving me this opportunity to talk a little bit, about our firm, but more interestingly, talk about the industry, talk about the trends, and talk about, what our community is doing in this, hopefully post-COVID year and beyond.
Yeah, it's very tricky to actually say, is it post-COVID? Yeah. We don't know, but maybe. Obviously, we're all hoping for the best, no doubt. I kind of want to start us off kind of in the beginning, kind of like how this movie starts. Sure. In the beginning, because Dewan is one of the few consultants in the city, if not the country, that can actually claim to be what I kind of say as a legacy consultant, in the sense that you truly have history in this city and in this country. So for people who may not know the depth and the breadth of what all has happened with Dewan since its inception, could you maybe run us through how it started, where we are now, and what's to come?
Absolutely. So originally, my family is from Iraq, and Iraq in the 70s was going through a lot of political upheaval. My father left in 1974. I was 2 at the time, and moved to Ras Al Khaimah in 1974. We moved as a family, the rest of our family, in 75. So we grew up there, moved to Kuwait a bit, and then my father moved to Abu Dhabi in 1984, where the firm actually Dewan Architects and Engineers was first sort of established officially under that name.
Right.
Obviously, we're in our 37th year of existence. So, there is a legacy, and this is something we'll talk about in a bit, which we're very proud of, because Dewan has become, to some extent, sort of a school for architects and some engineers. Many people have been with us for many years. Those that go on to do other better things, are still friends of the firm. We refer to our people as Dewanis, and it's something that culture of the firm is extremely important for us. And culture, permeates everything from ethics, permeates to attitude, permeates to sort of a focus on quality, because that's something we're very proud of, and something that's sort of inbred into all our people, is how to deliver quality service and quality design as well. So people, when they go on to other firms or other countries, it's also a proud moment for us to see that these people have also sort of learned in the Dewan school and moved to better things. So 1984 was the year we were in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi was going through a bit of a boom. There was all these, what they were called at the time, Khalifa Committee towers, which were the 20-story towers. The late Sheikh Zayed, God rest his soul, had a great plan for changing Abu Dhabi from quiet fishing village, pearl diving village, to a really cosmopolitan city, and did that very quickly. So between 1984 and actually probably early 90s, we probably designed and executed as well the supervision of I would say no less than 100 plus buildings.
Wow.
In Abu Dhabi. These are all sort of the old downtown of Abu Dhabi. And we quickly established ourselves as one of the most one design-oriented firm, and also one of the largest at the time in Abu Dhabi. And we continued doing that, up to probably 1997, 98, when we actually set up an office in Dubai as well. So, Abu Dhabi was always, the center of work. It was pre sort of Dubai economic turn and vision. And, we still have a lot of pride in saying that we are an Abu Dhabi homegrown company, in addition to a UAE homegrown company. Although Dubai today is our largest office and really our headquarters where all the management sits, Abu Dhabi still is a very important base for us. And the building I just showed you earlier, which is called Benias Tower, was probably one of our first projects, and it was one of the first sort of curtain wall, glass system buildings that was built at the time. So it was, we've always been into innovation and trying new things and trying to introduce new technologies or technologies that haven't come into this part of the world in our designs.
Can I then just ask, just as a point of curiosity, sure. At the time when Banias Tower was done and that system was basically not really seen as commonly, would you know what the kind of reaction was, both from, say, public and from the client at the time? Were they on board, excited, scared?
Yeah, no, I think in general, the UAE has always been a forward-looking country, through its leadership and through its people and through its expat community as well. Everybody is very well traveled. They come from different parts of the world. So it was actually an exciting moment. And even to this day, this building sits, right, bank center on the middle of Corniche Road.
Right.
Of course, the Corniche, it used to be 10 meters from the sea. Now it's set back probably 50, 60 meters because, they've done some land reclamation and expanded that area, for many reasons. But no, it's 30 plus years on. I think this building still, looks and feels right. And I think that's the essence of good design, is to do timeless design. And this is one of the sort of the, ethos of Dewan. There's a lot of great designs now and a lot of, very, let's say, experimental design as well. Whether it's here in Southeast Asia and in the US, North America, and so on. But I think timeless design, I was in New York 2 months ago, and you look at the Empire State Building. I mean, it's a 120 years old building.
And that'll never get
and
old.
It still looks great.
Yeah.
And just to sort of, again, talk about something else on the side. Did you know how long it took to build the Empire State Building?
I feel like I was told about this, and it was something ridiculously long, and what they thought it was almost 10 times longer or something.
No, actually,
like
it's the complete opposite. I was shocked by that. It's, I think, just over a year.
Wow.
It's a 110-story building, plus, I can't remember exact height, done, 110 years ago, without the technology of pumps and cranes and all, things we have now, done in 13 months, I think it was. Look it up, or I invite the readers, the listeners to look it up. But it's impressive what you could achieve, back then.
Project managers listening in, this is not a norm. There's no need to be revising timelines based on that example. But yes, I agree completely. Definitely will look it up. And everyone listening also definitely look it up.
So in 97, we decided to also set up a small offshoot in Dubai. And that's actually when I joined the firm in 98. In Dubai, we, was just the beginning sort of pre-internet city, pre-media city, pre all those, announcements that really transformed the city over the last, 20 years. Really, I think 2000 was the year the internet city was announced. Because of our reputation and from Abu Dhabi over the last, I think it was 15 years at the time or more, we quickly established ourselves as, a credible consultancy firm, and we're involved in, some very exciting schemes, buildings in Business Bay, Ibn Battuta shopping mall at the time, projects really all across the city. But up to that point, we were still sort of doing or running the business the same as we've always have.
Right.
And this continued and up to about 2007. And obviously, I'm skipping a lot of, important years, but because we have 37 years and we have, I think, 45 minutes, it's going to be very difficult to get it all in. But really, so up to 2007, we were loving the Dubai boom. I think everybody was. I think in those probably, 7-8 years, the amount of exposure that all firms and all architects and engineers in this part of the world got is probably worth 100 years of experience globally for anybody. I mean, we were, doing 100-story buildings, we were doing super malls, we were doing hotels. Really, it was unprecedented, and I think there was more work than anybody wanted. And of course, then the economic crisis happened in 2008, and which is normal in any part of the business. There has to be cycles of growth and cycles of stability and sort of more organic growth. So in 2007, actually, we and I think this wasn't done much in this part of the world. One of the largest private equity firms called Ammar Capital came and invested in our business. So they bought a minority stake, minority being under 50%, did not get involved in management. And really the aim of their investment was, to grow and ride on the growth of the industry that's happening, the construction industry at the time. For our side, the reason we decided to take this sort of direction, which usually architects don't like, because architects are very careful about their business and ownership and creative control and so on. But these just happen to be the right partners, and it's all about people. If the level of trust is there and the level of looking people in the eye and seeing that this person is out to help you is important. So for us, it was partially a good opportunity to exit part of the business and reward ourselves for the hard work that's been happening for the last 25 years at the time. But more importantly, it was to really set up the new vision of Dewan as really a corporate entity that has succession planning, that has corporate governance, that moves from being a family business to really a business that can go beyond because they always say architecture firms or any businesses survive the first generation, second generation, third generation destroys it.
Exactly.
So we don't want that. We want this firm to have a legacy and to continue beyond my father, beyond myself, and really we were looking at things like stock ownership programs. We're looking about, partnership programs, and we're still looking at that even up to date. So that sort of relationship helped a lot with moving the business into really a full established business, and also gave us a bit more, let's say, comfort in looking outside the UAE. So we set up, 2003, we set up the Baghdad office, which was an emotional thing for us, the family, because obviously we left in the 70s and hadn't been back since then. So that was important for us from just an emotional and sort of, going back home type scenario. And we did quite a bit of work in those few years. There was a lot of euphoria at the time, post Saddam, that, Iraq, as you know, is a big country with lots of resources, lots of thinkers, and lots of opportunity, because it really had done nothing for 30 years except wars. Unfortunately, civil war happened, and the political issues there, which are still there, continue. So we did a good amount of exciting work. Actually, some of it is sort of urban rejuvenation projects of historical religious cities. Projects that are, say, more grounded in history than commercial projects, which we have been used to up to then. 2007, we also set up 2006 actually, we also set up our Riyadh office, which was supported by Ammar at the time. They tied us up with one of their investor groups and helped us get into Saudi. And again, what we realized is that going to Saudi was not such a difficult transition. Coming from the UAE and coming from Dubai specifically as well, it's such a great brand that this city has built that really wherever you go, you have credibility, and I think this is something that really Dubai should congratulate itself on, and the UAE in general, because I don't think many cities in the world or many countries in the world are able to do that.
Right.
And again, it's been the experience that we've had over the last 20 years or so in Dubai with the big boom. It's also been probably the exposure. Because Dubai is such a cosmopolitan city with expats from all over the world, from every corner in the world, that it becomes a good brand. So Saudi, became an important market for us. Obviously, 2008 crisis came and was a big blow to everybody.
Yeah.
For us, we had to do what we had to do. We regrouped. We kept our position with our core people. Those that had to leave. We tried to, again, because we are very well sort of focused on culture. We tried to help people as much as we can. It was a difficult situation for everybody. I mean, there's no denying it. But we tried to move people to other offices, which we're doing better. We tried to secure jobs for people, put them on unpaid leaves. And I think we weathered that storm really well. And that was a turning point in sort of in Dewan's resilience, is that we've proven ourselves what we're able to do in other crises. I mean, crises continue to happen. Our construction business is cyclical. Global crises happen every, years. The pandemic came. And we were again quite well suited and able to maneuver quite quickly. We're not a small firm. We're not a super large firm. We're probably about 500 people today, but we really operate like a nimble, flexible boutique firm, if you like. Decisions are done very quickly because owners are management. The senior leadership, besides the owners, are also, very entrenched in Dewan. Some of them are been given shareholding as well as part of an incentive plan, and they've been with us for 20 years. So there's an ability to react very quickly, which I think is one of our success points throughout the years. So post-economic crisis, really within 2 years we recovered, and actually 2010, 11, 12 were one of our bigger years even in terms of profitability. Sometimes also these sort of difficult, crisis or economic, situations help you to sort of refocus the business. You become more nimble, you become more efficient, you become more sort of, you scrutinize your numbers more.
Right.
You focus on efficiencies and on the right projects as well. I mean, it's always important to sort of get the right projects, and the right projects is not just commercial. I mean, I think we all know architects are not the best business people usually.
Right.
And design making sure that
the business may suffer, but the design
may suffer. So for us, it's always been a fine balance between that. So we want to make sure that we choose the right clients, we choose the right partners, as we like to call them, and really deliver on projects. That's from the commercial side. The reality is, on the flip side, is that we also are known to always invest way more than what the job calls for, because we have a strong belief that you're only as good as your last project. Right. You can have 35 years of existence. If you have one bad project, and we all have bad projects, for many different reasons. It could be internal, external, third party, environmental, whatever. And all projects have complexities and challenges, but it's how you approach those challenges. It's how your I guess perception of self-worth as a firm and as humans, take on that work to make sure, because we really genuinely, care about our projects. We genuinely care about making sure they get delivered to the best of our ability, and we believe, because of the scale of our firm, we're able to sacrifice sometimes commercial.
If the project
is, I mean, all projects are worth it if the project will allow us, and also subsidize with other projects. It's really like a volume game of sorts. Right. But as long as we have our positions and our vision, for delivering quality projects at the end, this is what and this is inbred. In all embedded, in all the staff, really. Right. And if you walk around, you'll see that the firm is, many. We have, I think 35 nationalities last time we counted. A good proportion of females and males as well, split. It's really quite an open, friendly environment that people like to come to work and enjoy. It doesn't mean they don't work very hard. They work extremely hard. Our people really are our prime assets, and we make sure we tell them that, almost every other day, right. Because that's right. That's the nature of the job. Right. So post, opening up Saudi and Iraq, our next sort of market, let's say, because we've always been expanding our design capabilities. So we can talk about technology, we can talk about moving to Revit, which was a big drive. But really, it's also been about, we want to expand our network and become a global company as much as we can, within the confines also of our ability to deliver quality. Because if you grow too fast and you don't have attention, and we are, very, I'm personally involved in every single project to some level. Doesn't mean I'm involved in the design, but I'm aware of all the issues, all the, progress, relationship with the clients, and myself and other sort of leadership team. And when you grow, obviously beyond a certain capacity, you cannot do that as much as you want. So we're growing, but
sustainably,
cautiously and organically and sustainably. Exactly. So our next foray was into Southeast Asia. and we spent a few months doing, sort of research of which markets, suit us and which markets we want to penetrate. And that's based on sort of growth and construction sector and so on and so on. And it came down to a few. We focused on Vietnam initially, and
how so? I mean, what about it at the time was
so I'll tell you, just to digress a little bit. So we in 2008, which I forgot to mention actually, and my colleagues in the Manila office will not like it, but we set up Dewan Manila in 2007, I believe. And the reason for that really at the time wasn't to go after the market there, but 2007, 2008 were great boom years here in Dubai. You could not find any architect, or any engineer. It was mad. The amount of work that was out there, the resources, it just there was not enough capacity. So we set up a Manila office and quickly have about 60 people there now. Even when the economic crisis happened, we kept the team working there. They are an essential part of our design team. So how we're set up is every design team, as I showed you earlier, in the studio, every design team, has an extension in the Philippines. And the reason for that is multiple things. One is availability of resources around the clock. So before we used to have different weekends. Obviously our weekends are more aligned now, but it was the weekends and also the hours. In addition, is that the cost of running an office in the Philippines is also marginal compared to here. So that's how we sort of set up the Philippines office, and it kept growing, and we're about 65 people, I think now, and we have bigger plans to grow that. So as we started thinking, over the years, is that we have an office in the Philippines, we have 60 people. Why aren't we actually targeting work in the region as well?
Right. And
that's sort of how the conversation happened about Southeast Asia. And really, you have two growth markets. You have Africa and Southeast Asia, and both were interesting to us. In addition to sort of securing our markets, obviously in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and Saudi Arabia is growing also at a tremendous rate. Africa was secondary to us because it's a bit more complex. It's much more diverse. It's many countries. So we hired a consultancy firm that just sort of gave us research material and analysis of the markets. So we chose, I think, probably about 12 or 13 countries in Southeast Asia. And really we narrowed it down to, I think it was Vietnam. I've forgotten now which countries it was, but it was really, one is market opportunity, but also probably selfishly, it was countries we'd like to visit. I think
let's make a holiday.
It's always nice to go, and Asia is just unbelievable. And Vietnam is really a very impressive country. So we went and we tried to set up an office. Obviously, COVID happened, so we couldn't set up an office. And Vietnam is just opening right now, actually this week, and we're gonna go now with a big plan to set up an office. But we managed to secure about 4 projects in Vietnam, high-rise towers and mixed developments. Really very interesting projects for great clients. In COVID also, we managed to secure 2 very large mixed-use high-rise hotel / residential projects in China as well. So I think the pandemic also allowed us to expand, through Zoom and Teams.
Right.
Whereas before, people were very wary of but really, today the world is global. The pandemic helped make that even more global, because it forced us all to, move technology to technology, which was already there. It wasn't sort of a magical moment, but it's just, when people lose that fear factor, suddenly we're doing, more efficient work. Our Philippines office just went back to the office this week after 2 years of working from home.
Wow.
So we had 60 people working from home in different parts of Manila with intermittent maybe issues of, internet and power and so on. Yeah. But really, they were amazing, and we're working today on projects where we have people in the US, we have partners in the UK, Europe, Asia, all working simultaneously. One on our ability to use technology like Revit, and also communication technology. So that's sort of a quick summary of where we've set up. I'm sure I've missed a lot in between as well, but
I think anyone who's heard so far is just like, what else could there be? It seems just so. I understand why you say it is so brief, because we've obviously, you've walked us through the offices, and we've seen the entire history. So yes, I completely understand that there's obviously so much more that you skipped. But a few things that I want to just quickly touch upon. The main one being, I think anyone who's actually listening to you, probably if they didn't know you were an architect, you probably sound like or come off as business operator, economist, not particularly design oriented, which is perfectly fine. But I'm sure there are a lot of designers who are tuning in thinking, I want to also do that. I want to also become that, learn that. So for them, how did you make that transition? What did you have to do? Were there any skills that you had to pick up, which maybe they can?
Sure. I mean, look, the reality is, and I've said this before, architects aren't always the best business minded people. For many, the creative side versus the analytical business side.
Right.
Sometimes they don't always, align. Actually, I'm a civil engineer by degree.
I apologize immediately.
But I like to think of myself as an architect.
I'm sure.
The design. I think design is a passion. So I studied civil engineering, and I actually did my MBA as well. And I think probably learning from my father, the business side of things, is sort of what drove me in this position. Now, we have great architects and great directors of design and great, people, some of them who and obviously running a business like ours at this scale means that I do need to focus a bit on the business side, more than the design, because one is capacity, and two, let every expert do what they're best suited to do. What's your question?
The question was that if there's a designer listening in, or an engineer also listening in, and because obviously a lot of people straight out of school, especially design school, have little to no knowledge about actual business setup, accounts, how things work, overheads, margins, all those kind of things, which typically most designers pick up as you practice in the firm that you're in. But for someone who's never done that, who's always been very front end, for example, how do they actually pick up these skills? Yeah,
I mean, you said it. To be honest, you learn it on the job. You can study it, and you can learn it, and you can take degrees, and you can take courses. But I really think getting a sense of numbers, getting a sense of how to scale a business, growth, strategy, all that. I think part of it is inherent in your personality. Some people are great designers, some people are more analytical, some people are, more entrepreneurial, and so on. And some people have a mix of different parts of that. So doing it on the job and making mistakes,
right? Best way to learn.
It's the best way to learn, and really surrounding yourself with people who give you good advice.
Right.
So having good mentors, having good colleagues who you can trust. And I think nobody can do everything. So I think your ability to build relationships with people that you work with, or people that are external who might support you, and getting advice and being open to getting advice. I think that's probably critical. I mean, one of probably my most the book I like the most is called Love is the Killer App. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
Nope.
It's a very short book. It's about this gentleman. I forgot his name now. It's probably about a 10-year-old book, actually. It's about this guy who was not very successful in school. He's very smart, but just not very successful in school. Over time became, I think, number 2 at Yahoo at the time. And the summary of the book, I won't go into too much details. The summary of the book is that to be successful in life, you have to be likable. To know a little bit about your job, and a little bit, not obviously a little bit, but to know your job. But really, it's about being likable, and that helps with selling. That helps with building relationships with your partners and suppliers. That helps with your colleagues, and that gets you through life. So he, from really being a failure at school, became one of the most successful people, because he was likable. He exchanged information with people. He shared. One of the things he did a lot was, if anybody asked him for anything, he'd always do it. He was very open. He wasn't about holding information to himself. He used to recommend a lot of books to friends and colleagues, and quickly established himself. Obviously, I mean, this is oversimplifying it, but yes. I think being likable and having an honest an honest sort of introspective relationship with yourself is what
is key.
Is key to your success in anything, architecture or other businesses. Yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think you touched upon again something which is quite interesting, kind of identifying what individuals are really good at. Let the experts do what the experts do, which I think is brilliant. But I can see how that's easy to do in really small firms because it's quite simple to kind of see it very evidently at a kind of, top down model. But in a scale like D1, for example, just by the nature of it, it's quite difficult for you probably as one person to be able to identify this across all the individuals under your umbrella. So I'm kind of curious as to what are the kind of HR models or kind of systems that you've put into place to kind of identify and nurture these things.
Yeah, so it's not so much HR systems. I mean, obviously HR is critical to being able to, recruit, retain, and find the right people and so on. But I think, and you touched on it exactly, is that, the culture permeates from the top all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
So, I know that my director of design is going to hire like-minded people.
Right.
He knows that his design manager is going to hire like-minded people. And I think we've been very successful in that, whether it's by design, but it's probably a bit of luck also. I think we have quite a high retention rate as well. People at D1 do notice, and again, don't take my word, but ask some of my colleagues, do know that, the management and owners care about them, and we try to do, things on a personal level. So people have issues, we try to resolve them, we help them, support them. But also, in terms of, just general day-to-day, there is very clear, I think, and strong focus on making sure that everyone knows that they're an important part in this machine. Now, that's obviously easier to do in your home market.
Right.
The trick is when you expand to new markets with new cultures and new ways of doing things, and is how to recreate that, and that's what we've sort of, it's a bit more challenging. So we've been very successful in Saudi Arabia. We've been successful in the Philippines. Some great people and really self-motivated and take great pride in their work. We're doing it now. One of the cities I forgot to mention is that we just set up last year our office in Cairo as well. So we're trying to do that. And we had a discussion about this morning, actually, with some of the senior directors, is how do we, so we want to attract the best. How do we do that? We want people, to want to come to D1. So the brand is there, but they want to come to the same D1 that's known in the UAE, with its one look and feel. You've seen the office, you've seen sort of the atmosphere that's sort of loose and relaxed and design oriented, and we want to replicate that. Aesthetically and physically, but also with the culture. I think one of the additional layers that's helped us do that is that we have many of our senior leadership team, and we continue to do that, sort of rise through the ranks. So they've seen all the different sides of the business. They've come in maybe as an architect and become a design director, and they've been with us 15, 20 odd years, and they just the culture becomes part of them as well, and they continue sort of promoting that in their own recruitment, in their own sort of style of. I think we've been very lucky with that, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's intentional, but also it needs a bit of luck. I mean, let's be honest. We have been very lucky with the people we have and the culture that we've built, and we want to continue doing that, hopefully.
No, I think anyone who, like you said, kind of walks through your office gets that immediately. I mean, this is my first time here, and it's just a vibe. It's an energy that you kind of pick up. Absolutely agree with you completely. Which is kind of a good segue into also what I want to talk about, which is with employees like that, I can now very easily understand why the project we're going to talk about, I can easily understand why D1 was kind of at the forefront of that. And that, of course, is kind of the big buzzword at the moment, which is, the metaverse and, VR experiences and everything kind of related to how contracts are now, going to be completely digital and NFTs. And there's just so much explosion of information out there in this field. And fortunately, it's a lot of opportunity for people like ourselves in the design ecosystem. Barbell is obviously a project which Dewan has done. And again, I don't want to be giving sort of second, third hand information out. I'd rather the audience hear it from you directly. So kind of maybe walk us through what was the interest for Dewan in the metaverse, what led to the project, and how is it received?
Okay, yeah, I mean, we just ran out of countries and started to go to the metaverse. No, on a serious note, look, we have actually a lot of young people within the firm, and we actually have an entity called Young Leaders of Dewan, who get involved in competitions, get involved in initiatives, community initiatives, and really the purpose of that is to create, and these are people who are maybe just graduates, fresh entrants into Dewan, and a lot of these young people sometimes are not given the opportunity to excel, and they just become sort of pieces of the machine. But really, we thought, look, let's try, let's experiment, let's find some of these people, create that entity with Dewan where they're doing design competitions. Sometimes they do like product design using paper clips and just sort of creative projects that are not necessarily driven by our day-to-day commercial activities. So when obviously we've been hearing about cryptocurrency, all that kind of stuff over the last few years. I don't claim, and none of us claim we're experts. I don't think anyone knows what's going on, but there's obviously a lot happening. We've been looking at or reading about, just like everybody else, about these metaverses, with Meta doing their own thing, Sandbox, Decentraland, and so on. Some of it sounds ludicrous, let's be honest, but there's a lot of money and a lot of attention and some interesting things that are coming out of it. And Dubai, has taught us that they're usually one of the great experimental grounds for that. So one of the things that attracted me, one of the articles I read is that, for example, Nike, bought a virtual shoe company recently, and that's sort of one of the article. When I read it, I'm like, look, the world is changing.
Light bulb. let's
look at this.
Yeah.
And we're looking at it initially not from a commercial perspective. We're looking at it from sort of let's learn and do and see what comes out with it. And we're speaking to different people. We're talking to people in the US, people in Europe who are involved more into that. We also spoke to our friends, at the Dubai Future Foundation to see what Dubai's plans are. And it seems Dubai has some exciting plans for this world as well. And they'll be launching something or announcing something in the next couple of weeks, from what I understood. So we said, look, let's do an NFT.
Right.
And so we design, and the NFT, obviously the NFT, is a non-fungible token. It's on the blockchain. It could be an image, could be a video, could be any digital asset. And we didn't want to just do, renders or something like that. We said, let's do a community project, where we do this surrealistic, futuristic project that's never going to be commercially built. And that's what, Babel, and we called it Babel 4.0. Babel obviously is the old ancient city in Iraq, and 4.0 because that's the new sort of, future of Internet 4.0 and the Internet of Things and big data and all that. And if you can take a look at the NFT, it's on OpenSea under Dewan. But really, it's a surrealistic building of infinite height, with a helix ramp that goes all around, so you can go from the lowest floor to the highest floor. There is no highest because it's infinite, really. And what we decided to do is one, create this NFT, launch it, and then create 100 sub NFTs of this and gift it to leaders in industry. So this could be, one of the interested parties is the city of New York, for example. They heard about it through the media and they're interested. So the person who was involved in the design of on the urban side of New York, so the High Line project, and some other exciting projects, was interested. So we said, look, why don't you join us? We don't know what it is, what it's going to be, but we're talking to people like Autodesk, we're talking to universities, we're talking to designers, suppliers, young designers, furniture suppliers, product designers, and really to sort of create a community. There's 100 NFTs we'll be giving out, over the coming weeks. 100 we chose because Babel had 25 gates, on each side, and so we created this 100 number. It's a not-for-profit project,
right,
but it's really to build a community of. So we'll have things like exhibition space, virtual exhibition space. We'll have, town halls where people come and be able to talk. And when I say we will have, and I'm skipping a few stages, is that we're actually have purchased a plot on one of the metaverses, and we're gonna build Dewan's office in the metaverse very soon in the coming weeks, and also place this first Babel there, and it becomes really a place where you can go virtually and you can have exhibition space for NFTs, you can have community building activities, you can have meeting spaces, you can have town halls, you can have exchange of information. Really, it's an experimental thing, and it'll be growing excessively. We looked at some of what other architects are doing in the metaverse. So there's not a lot of work, to be honest, on the metaverse from architects, surprisingly, although we are probably one of the most prolific producers of content.
Yeah,
everything. All we do is produce content every day.
Right.
But not a lot is happening there yet. There are people tinkering with things. There's actually a virtual market for architecture NFTs in the US, which is being launched now. There are some people designing houses. There was that house that got sold for $500,000, a virtual house. I forgot, Mars House, I think it was called, or something. But not a lot is happening. But it's coming. I mean, in what form? Will everything that's happening now change in the next year? Yes, for sure. But you look at every industry, every sport, every entertainment, every educational is looking at it. So we believe there's a strong demand for it, and it's only going to grow and evolve and change, just like the internet in day one. But designing, if we talk about it from a sort of a perspective of an architect, designing buildings or projects without gravity is gives you
exciting.
It gives you huge. I mean, architects hate engineers because we place columns and we place MEP spaces and we sort of pull back from their creative juices. But really, on the metaverse, you can design whatever you want. And I think this is good from the perspective that it gives creative people and architects the ability to dream beyond reality. Now it becomes, okay, how do you create a commercial aspect of it? So there are people designing, for example, buildings in the metaverse. So somebody wants to set up a headquarters, people are setting up, Nike wants to set up its own offices there, you design. That's somewhat interesting for us, but we don't think that's our end game. We want to become more interesting players in the metaverse. We don't want to just do what we do in the real world and do it in the metaverse. So right. And this is what we're and we have some interesting plans which we'll announce over the coming weeks as well.
Awesome.
But definitely it's experimental, and it's but the growth potential of this is huge, because every day you're reading about things that are we used to take years is happening in weeks, and I think in a couple of years we'll see a completely different world. Actually, I was speaking to a very good friend of mine, and he's like, thank God we're going to die soon, because I don't want to be living in this world which everything looks so complex. I mean, my kids who are 15 and 13 and 9, they probably understand more about this than I do.
Right.
They talk about it amongst each other. Collectibles, when kids used to collect baseball cards or football cards or marbles or whatever, it's all moving digitally. So it's a whole new world that's coming that we might not be able to visualize, but I think in 5-10 years it's going to be some exponential change in how we live and transact, and positive or negative. I cannot judge.
No, I mean, no one can really tell if it's positive or negative until it actually happens. But yeah, I mean, congratulations for actually kind of, diving into that world. I think the potential is great. Again, like you said, whether it's good potential or bad is left to be seen, but there's definitely some potential there. Kind of coming back to the real world.
Yeah. Thank you.
As kind of a final question or final topic, if you may, I kind of just wanted to pick your brain as to what are the kind of projects which you think are of interest in the next, say, 10 years for Dubai, in the sense that based obviously because you have such a deep-rooted history, both professionally, personally, as well with the city and so on. You've obviously literally seen the city grow up. What do you think the next 10 years Dubai actually needs? What should they invest heavily in? What should they be building?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's a very difficult question to answer. I think the if we talk about Dubai specifically and not the UAE or not beyond the GCC, I think Dubai has always been amazing at reinventing itself, and we're fortunate enough here as well that the government is a big sort of leader in reinventing itself and creating new markets and new opportunities. And I think that's driven again by necessity. Countries that need to grow and change and they have the right leadership, which Dubai definitely has, are the ones that will always prosper. I mean, look at COVID. The rest of the world was falling apart. And really, Dubai, we had 2-3 weeks of lockdown, not even.
Yeah.
And business flourished. Real estate prices have doubled. The amount of people I see coming into the country who have never come in, as investors, and these are not, what we typically have seen in the past, which might be the Brits or the, Indians or the Arabs or the Russians. It's actually, I see people from Switzerland, I see people from Monaco, I see people from China, Africa. And really they're coming to invest in the country because I think they've realized that, the UAE and Dubai specifically, is a great place to live and there are great opportunities. I think because Dubai has been on such a trajectory of growth since 2000, sometimes it's good to take a pause and see, okay, what should we do now? And I think the government realizes that, the leadership realizes that. So investment, I mean, from my personal perspective, and it could be just sort of, selfish, what I want to see here, I'd like to see more culture, more museums, more events, more, I mean, the expo has been amazing, the expo, I think, is going to be a great platform for that. 10 years ago, it was announced, I haven't been to many expos, but, people I've known say they've been to 10 or 12. This is probably by far one of the best organized. And, you always know when Dubai does things, they do it right. You don't even have a fear that they're going to mess it up, and the Milano Expo had issues, but this one just went, and look, it's 5 months almost.
Yep.
I thought 6 months is a long time, but it's, actually, I sort of wish it's another 6 months, because there's still a lot to see and time passes. So I think the expo and sort of repurposing that as a legacy project, with culture, with other types of activities centered around that could be the new thing. Of course, Dubai is always going to be known for commerce and retail and all that. Again, not to go back into the metaverse, but Dubai could be an important ground for that as well, for conferences, which Dubai has always been, great at doing. So doing conferences virtually through Dubai, I don't know how that's going to work. Retail, again, virtually. They're talking about things like, virtual travel as well. But the physical side of things, Dubai is a, probably one of the best infrastructures in the world. People like to come here. You have the airport, the roads, the system, the hotels, everything. I think probably education and culture is what I would say.
Right.
20 years ago, there weren't many, universities here. Now there's dozens of good universities with good programs, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well. 15 years ago, I would never think of having my kids study here. We'd always think of sending them to Canada or the UK or the US. But now there's actually, a real opportunity for keeping people here and studying here and having, being part of the academic process here. So I think education, investment in education, which is happening, but just having sort of more good universities are obviously always tied to good R&D and grants and all that. We don't really have that in the universities yet in the education system. Education system here is typically tied to private sector investments. Once you have that and you have that whole chain, you really see everything, from great hospitals and healthcare to great education to great culture. And Dubai is just at the start. I mean, if you think about it, it's 20 years ago. I mean, obviously the UAE has been here for a long time, and Dubai has been an important trading hub to the subcontinent and Iran and so on for many years. But this is only 25 years or something of that phenomenal growth, which is nothing,
right?
So the next 25 years, and one thing we've learned is you can never discount Dubai or underestimate Dubai. They always find a way to come back, and the people are so resilient, and businesses are so resilient. Private sector, government sector, really everybody is. It really is an exciting entrepreneurial city, and it has become a global city. But I think it can be the global city not far away from now. And we're very fortunate to live here. I look at friends of mine in Canada or the UK or the US, and we've always looked up to those countries and cities as the best places to live. But really, there's nowhere in the world that I would like to live right now than here, and it's the truth, and this comes across to everybody from at all nationalities and at all levels of the economy. Yeah.
No, I mean, as someone like myself who's born and raised here, I completely agree. Similar thing. I've had colleagues and friends go across the pond on the other side. Same story. So I think that's a brilliant place to kind of conclude this session of the podcast. I'm sure there is so much more that we have to talk about. And without a doubt, I'm sure that you're going to be on for definitely a lot more episodes in the future. I know that you're very, very busy. So therefore, on behalf of the show, we'd like to thank you for giving us your time. This show is only possible because people like yourself donate your time and kind of share the knowledge and experience that you've gained with our listeners. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you on again very, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alan, for giving me the opportunity. I think what you're doing is great because it tackles, design and tackles our industry, from different angles that are not always commercially driven or about, public relations or promoting. It's about really digging in deep, into the people, into the environment, into the community, and you should be congratulated for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And for the rest of you guys, we will catch you guys next week. Fellow aFormers, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being part of our journey, and thank you for the immense support we've been receiving for our episodes. It has and continues to be a very bumpy road, but we wouldn't want it any other way. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought you value, please share this episode with anyone who may benefit from it. But of course, if you loved the episode, follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn, send us a little DM, and we may just send you a secret link to a secret episode which we've been working on. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. See you next time. Keep sketching.